Good evening. It's Sunday night, and it's about 20 past 8 now. I've just been, like many, probably waiting for the next position update at 8 o'clock UTC, and I just checked it all out for me and thought, well, I might as well give you an update. And it looks as if the front, well, it's all sort of blown out now, and they're just settled into weather. The interesting thing that surprised me the most was because we've been out all day. I haven't really looked at it since 8 o'clock this morning when we did the position update and just came back. We've been up in Leamington with Gunner and the GGR talking about stuff, big meetings and blah, blah, blah. And so come back and I came on at 8 o'clock knowing a little bit about what was going on with the weather because I looked at that. And Ada did an interesting post as well. She's doing reporting. I might share that later. But anyway, I was surprised at the course of the boats, which is really interesting. And I think part of that is born of the fact that they each have to make a decision on what they're going to do about the current situation, where they're going to go and how they're going to tackle their final approach towards Durban. And I think that's where people are starting to now make their decisions and start owning it. You know, there's a few of them taking different routes. So I'll do a bit of that. I'm not going to go on and on, but I'll show you the weather that we've got now, and it looks as if it's come through and dissipated and came through possibly 30 knots gusting up to 35 from what I'm seeing, and the sea certainly wasn't building up. It seems to be quite mild at the moment. It might change a little bit the longer they're in it. It'll slowly build, but I don't think we're going to see much more than 3 meters maybe, and probably less than some of the videos we saw from Jacob and also from Christian. Haven't heard anything. We haven't seen any reports from Christian yet. I don't think he's given me any word reports. We haven't got many reports from anyone, actually. Just looking at that. Urton gave me something. But anyway, let's have a look at the tracker, and I'll try and explain exactly what's going on for all those that might be interested. If you're not interested, you won't be here watching, so that's easy. I've got a captive audience. Okay, so you're on the tracker, and now I don't want windy. I want this one. So I'm on the same tracker, and there it is. You can pretty much see that they're all going all over the place. My first impression was that okay, maybe it's blowing reasonably hard, and they're running off with it. They're running away with it. You can see quite a few of the fleet now going northwest just to keep what they've got on the quarter. It'll be pretty sure it's running nighttime. Yeah, it'll be just as it's getting dark and they go into the night. Dan made the classic line and said, I'm going to ride it out. I got a little bit of head sail up and go and talk to my wife and watch a movie, Just get inside, shut the door and carry on. The 580 is good for that. Renault's also made a dramatic turn. You can see there he was heading along okay, and then all of a sudden it turns up and bingo, he's tracking northwest as well, which, I think it's nighttime, heavier winds. We're yet to get a definitive dimension on the strength of the wind, but from what I'm seeing, it's 30 knots gusting 35, and the forecast is quite low right now. So what you're seeing here, this light orange, is actually, the light yellowy colour rather, is actually, down around 20, 25 knots. That's it. And I'll go on to windy in a minute after this and just show you what windy's saying with actual technical readouts of wind strengths. So, okay, just looking at Josh, he's been plodding along up there, maintaining course and speed, 5 knots, 87 miles. That's cool. Urton's heading off, keeping everything comfortable for the pilot. 77 miles, 5.5 knots. I think the boat speed's more relevant than anything now. Christian, 6.5, 70 miles alongside Urton. Jasmine, she's going for it. I hope she doesn't blow any sails out. But anyway, 3.5 knots, so she's not going fast there. But she's been moving all day, and she's still ahead of a lot of people. Adam, 6.5 and 77-mile days. Jazz might be just all sails down and just going under bare poles. I don't know. Eric, 4.2, 83. And we've got, we did Christian, did Urton. Peeler. Now, this is what makes me think that entrants are making a decision on where they want to go and where they want to set up for the final approach into Durban. And it's very interesting because I've had a good look at the weather on their approach. They're going to be there in about 3 to 5 days. The boats will be going through, and you may well be able to approach it direct from the east, or close enough. But we'll have a look at that in a minute when we look at the current. So 5.2, definitely taking a course completely independent of what the others have done. She's not running off. She's held it on the beam and driving pretty quick, 5.2, 98 mile a day. But she's beelining straight for the finish. She seemed well prepared, and I think she's got a plan. So who knows what it is. I've got an idea what it might be. Jacob, 4.8, 94 mile a day, not too bad. Renault, definitely going higher than I would have expected, so I'm pretty sure that's a tactic he's moving to go around in his current choice. 6.1, 88 mile a day. Yeah, 88. And Dan, 6.9, 63. Hope it's a good movie. Kerry over there, 6 knots, 80 miles. So that's sort of what's going on there. We're in day 252. I'll make this as big as I can. And then we'll pull up the currents and have a look. So effectively, the front's going through, and this is the next challenge for them. Where, if you imagine yourself sitting in your boat here and say, right, where am I going to go? Okay, here's where you want to go down to Durban. You can follow the rum line. Now, if you were following the rum line down here in this direction, you're certainly going to get some headwinds at the bottom of this current rather. You're going to get some head current. Once you've got that, if you imagine if you came down here, once you get through this light, that's all you've got. It's not that wide, not a lot, but then you hook into this one and you're going to get a boost out the other side, and you're down here. Okay, so not impossible to dream about, pushing through that. It's about half a knot, and the thickness of that it's showing, if it's real, you'd be in, if Peeler carries on this course or something like the rum line, she's going to be in it for about 40 miles. It's not, even if you said 50 miles, it's not that bad. 50 miles, about half a knot. If you were doing 5 knots, it's going to take you 10 hours. Half a knot, you lose 5 miles. Okay, and you slow down to 4 knots, keep pushing through. There's going to be 12 hours. You might lose 5 or 6 miles. That's not impossible. And you're going to get a reasonable one on the other side. So it sets you up pretty nicely. These guys, if I pull this back here and say, okay, this is where Peeler might be working on. She wants to get up the front. They're going to go, I've got to do some real, not guesswork, but some functions there. So there's 150 miles to get up there, right, to get the benefit of this thing. And then you've got, say, just if we say off that point there, which is Richard Bay, 150 plus another 260 or 250, that's 400 miles we're going to do. So if I pull this to Peeler, if she's straight lining, she's got about 400 miles as well. Yeah, it's very interesting. I don't know which is the best scenario here, and a bit of it might come down to wind. So you can see it's about the same. The distance is about the same, and it will certainly level out once you get on. They're going to get a boost around there, and it's pushed her up similar size distance, but that means, and that assumes, if the boat speeds were similar, that Peeler is now neck and neck with Renault. Did you get that idea? In other words, yes, Peeler's got 400 miles from there to there, but that's at the same time. From now, Renault's got 400 miles from that point. So if they did the same distance and the same boat speed, they're neck and neck when they get to this point. So that means she will have picked up about 70 miles. I don't know whether you're following that, but just to summarise, 400 miles from there to there for Peeler, and where Renault is right now to go straight up into this current and then come back down again to that similar position is also 400 miles. So we say the race starts now and everything's the same with boat speed. They're neck and neck by the time they get to this point in between Richards Bay and Durban. So it's a shorter distance and there's only this little bit of head current. But yes, they're going to pick up a bit there, but that's not that big a distance. Let's see how much you're going to get. 2 knots, say. 2 knots over the distance of there. There's 100 miles at 5 knots. It would be 20 out. 20, is that right? Yeah, 5 knots over 100 miles. You're going to get a benefit. 20 hours. And you get 2 knots. Could be 40 miles. And 40 miles is basically about when you get from there to there, maybe. Yeah, it's not even 40 miles. There's the 40-mile advantage from there to there. So this is going to be interesting to watch. Assuming Peeler is planning on that route to go down and get underneath this one and carry on, it might be a bold move that's going to get her in a much better position as if it was just follow the leader. Okay, that's the best way to describe that. So let's just look at the current. We only get 2 days of current variance. There it is there. Not a lot of change. Certainly coming down here for Peeler, maybe she's got a bit more to get under. And this one, giving her the ride around there, has got a bit worse. So we'll have to wait and see. Day 4. Yep, it's a big ride over the top. A bit worse here. But day 2, she should be up here somewhere. She might be underneath this. You know, if she came down through that thing, it's really hard to pick. You can see how difficult the decision is for the skippers. There's no more to change there. So, yeah, I think you're seeing Dan and Renault going over the top and down. All right. So, and remember this: we've got the Durbans here. There's not a lot of current coming down in between Richards Bay and Durban at that point. That's on the 5th. There's more there now, but it's dying off a bit. And about the 4th, 5th, I don't think get any more on the 6th. That's about when they're going to arrive, but let's work that out on the wind. So coming back to the wind, I hope this isn't boring anyone, but there's lots of guesswork that goes on here at the moment. Here we go, back on the weather for now. So I'm going to push this through a complete day. So it's 2000 on day 1, 2000 on day 2. So this is the next day. You see, very favourable. They can pretty much go wherever they want. They can keep coming up and around that current at the top. And Peeler's got a good breeze to come across. So that's the first day. The next day at 2000. So that was the second. Hang on, we want the third. Is that right? Hang on. That's the first day there. No, today's the second, and we're on 2000. So second, that's where we are now. Okay, so we're now going to go through to the third at 2000. That's it there. So that's it. It's what I just said. And we now go through to the 4th at 2000. That's near enough there. Still a reasonable breeze, getting a bit soft. Reasonable breeze. It's on the beam there. They've got following breeze, which is a bit slower, but that's okay. There's a northerly there. So that's day 2, and I reckon you're going to see at least 220 miles. So 220 miles, it's going to be about there, maybe a bit more. 220, 230, 240, something like that. That's about where they'll be on day 2. So or where Peeler's going to be on day 2. So I get rid of that. We come back to this one again, and we go through to day 3, which will be the 5th at 2000. Sit there, boom. And she was here. It's going to be a debate, but the issue there is that even once she gets across there, she's going to have it on the beam. This is where it gets really interesting. It's going to be potentially on the beam, and she's heading for Richards Bay, or she could even be down here heading for Durban, right? And it's on the beam, which is kind of good. If you're coming down from the top, it's on the nose. And this is 3 days out, right? So while Peeler's going to be around here somewhere, Renault and the boys are going to be up here, and they've got to push down. Okay, so that's on the 5th. So there it might be more favourable for Peeler if she's pushed into this little bit, where it's going to be disadvantageous for the other guys. So on the 6th, 20th, it's solid, right? And this is where it gets interesting. Peeler's to windward, right? It's easier for her to go this way than it is for the guys up the top to come down. So day 5 and day 6 potentially give you an advantage to be in the south, not coming in from the north if they're going around that big bit of current. This is where it gets tricky, and I'm wondering whether this is what Peeler's up to. I made some assumptions before about what she was doing going over the top of Reunion. It didn't work, but she may be taking the punt here. So that could be interesting. And this headwind is not a real problem, but it's certainly going to cut it up a little bit in the Agulhas current. But it's not super strong, but it's going against the current 100%. So we'll look at this. I'm going to repeat this. If you want to go to bed, go to bed. I'll repeat this on windy after. So you can see this is on the 6th. We're talking about the 5th and the 6th being critical for Peeler's course versus Dan and Renault. Okay, going over the top. I forget about the rest of the fleet because they'll be following along doing one or the other. But you've got to make a decision, and it's clear that Peeler's doing something and intends to stay south. So that's the 5th and the 6th, and then we come into the 7th. And hopefully there's the 7th, and bingo, it's turned around, and they should be in by then. So, but it's light, okay, and this is the critical area. So if that all made sense, you can see, I think that's what Peeler's up to, which is the interesting bit. Now, let me come back here and say, oh no, we're on windy now. I need to check that. I don't trust that. Let me just see. That's not windy. So I'm going to come back to me. Okay, so hello everybody. We're now, I'm going to put you on to windy. This is just to make sure I've got the sequencing right. I think Jane might be able to check this. So you're looking at me, I'm looking at you, and there's windy. You've got windy. And now I'm going to go to windy. Yes, there it is. Now this is the position of Renault. I already preset that up. So that's Renault's current position. Okay, at the 8 o'clock situation. The wind at that point, this is 9 o'clock, so a little bit, you can see the wind forecast there. They've only got 21 knots. That's the forecast wind. And if we go to gusts now, it's 28 knots. So you're talking about stuff which is generally from 20 knots gusting to 28, 30. That's what makes me think it came through at about 35. But now if you just remember where that is, it's in line with the wave sequence here. And I've got the Latin long, but it's directly above the 9th of November there. And at about that height, the same with the waves. So just wandering, oops, easy. I want to capture that. Wandering over this, you can see there's 30 knots in there, 31, 32. So I reckon that came through at about 35 knots, gusting 35. Probably a solid 30, gusting 35, but you can see Renault is on the back edge of it now, so he's it's going to move out really quickly now. And in fact, if I go over here to sort of 4 o'clock in the morning, this is gusts, and we go back to wind, and we say he was over here, he'll then be in about that position. You see this is 2 o'clock tomorrow morning, so it's about 6 hours, it's back to 18 knots, and gusting less than 30, so 18 knots, gusting 27, so it's all dying down quickly. Some of the back end of the fleet will have it a bit longer, but they didn't start it until later, so that's easy. All right, so we've got that out of the way. Waves, 2.7 metres. It's just not building up really big or sort of 2-3 metres, so it's very manageable, so I think they're okay. The videos we saw from both Jacob and Christian, that was because of the current. It was wind and current. When you see that wave break behind Christian and then the surging water slamming into the back of the boat, that's just a steep wave that's broken on top of itself and just keeps running forward, hits the back of the boat. But they're little boats, big transom, just pushes forward, keep going as long as the boat's not too heavy. So perfectly safe, but a bit of fun nonetheless. All right, so back to the wind, and we'll just duplicate this thing with Peeler. So here's the wind. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, and we'll look at the 5th and the 6th closing in. So there's the 3rd. The wind's got quieter. We saw that on the map, on the yellow brick map. There it is coming in with the strong northerly, and by the time we get to the 5th, this is again this little front scenario, which looks a little bit more dramatic than it was for our tracker. Now you can see where it is, and this is about Richards Bay area. This is about where we were talking Peeler joining the system on the 5th. It's sort of coming in on the 5th or the 6th, and that's about where she's going to be, approaching the other side here. Just to, oh bugger, I can't. I'm missing my control on the side. I can get to the currents. Hang on a sec. No, I can't. But anyway, well, you can remember the current. Here's Durban right there. We're just going to guess this. Zoom in. Here's Durban down here, bottom left. And you can imagine now if the boys are coming down from the north, they're going to run into this. And this is about where Peeler is. So it crosses over. She's further down. So it's 13 knots, 15 knots, 20 knots. And it's on the beam. Okay, this is the beauty of this one. It's on the beam. You're going to be sailing fast, 20 knots on the beam. The sea state is going to be, what have we got, 2 to 3 meters. She can drive in that, deep reef main or even no main in the jib. She'll drive that straight in. And when that's happening with the wind, if we come and look at the gusts are 27 knots, she's got that, right? But the buoy's coming up from the top, it's going to be gusting 30 knots. It's going to be more on the nose. It's going to be, really a lot more dramatic for them to come south. She'll probably, if this is true, she'll be pissed off that I'm talking about this, but I'm sure Renault knows this as well. But you might see the boats come roaring down, but they can't now, really. They're committed. They're committed to go over the top of that current whirlpool. So you can see that this could be preempting what is her plan, because then when it's down here, again, if she's in the south, heading for Durban, that's a nice breeze to cut across. And on the 6th, she's well and truly going to be there, and she should have enough power, enough speed, and enough predetermined position to drive straight through to Durban. Whereas the others, if they're stalling to come down, right, by the time you get to doing tough, it's only going to get worse and worse and worse, right, if you're coming in from the north. It's what I was saying before, and Graham pointed out the very important factor of not overshooting and getting caught here in a calm and getting sucked down with the current. But you just got to be your final approach, and I say, usually within 150 miles, get to the east of it, 150 miles out, and then if you get caught in these winds, you can always go north and come up and then rejoin the channel here. But if you see you've got a window to power through on a reach with a good breeze, you're right. You don't want to be caught here in a calm, because if you get caught in a calm, you're going to get sucked south if the current is really big. So Pila might be onto something here. Anyway, she's out trying. I don't want to confuse you with too much there, so I'll leave it at that. Be interesting to see how it goes. But certainly, I think everything is happening with the fleet quite comfortably. I was very happy to see everyone, across the board saying they were all ready for this. And unfortunately, it had already died off in the last 2 days compared to what it looked like. And they were well rested, well prepared. Touch wood. Hope all is working out okay. Anyway, I was having a look anyway and dreaming about it, working out what's going on. So hence we've got another update. So I'll just have a quick walk around here. G'day, Sienna, Junior Shark. Good evening. Peter, hi, Don. Being caught in that area off Richards Bay in 50 to 60 knots with the late Rob Meek. Not fun when inshore. Very bumpy and nowhere to hide. Yeah, that's the real issue. All the best from Pete. Yeah, thanks for that, Pete. I had someone else was online saying they saw the front come through, but we were just lucky. It was a good one, it's not a dramatic one. So it's all worked out okay so far. We've only seen messages from a few of them, but I've got faith in their ability in the boats. The sailors in their boats have beat all expectations. Yeah, they're doing okay, but it was certainly a bit softer. They seem to be doing okay. Nice to see you at this time of the day. We are all concerned about our fleet. Yeah, no, I've never really been concerned. You go through all this stuff, and really I'm doing the weather reports just to maybe even keep, help the managers, get them relaxed or not concerned. It's all cool. And all the sailors having Starlink on board, that gives them great bloody weather forecasting. They're getting exactly the same as what I'm looking at here now. So that's a big plus. Sean, Pila has done what my instincts were last night when you were discussing what to do. Yeah, you got to make that decision on the currents, where you're going to set up with the currents. But anyway, wind's predominantly the south, so we'll be pushed north before hitting the main current coming down from the north. But then if it is coming down from the north, it's on the nose. It's everything I just discussed. So, but anyway, for a girl, she's got what we call good gonads. You got to have gonads to achieve anything in life, and she's doing okay. She's got the guts to have a go. I may be wrong with this. Maybe she's having a good sleep and she's just carrying on. I don't know. It's just my assumptions. But it's good to see someone doing something different. It's not unsafe. So let's see how it pans out. Sean, also out of the front quicker. Yeah, well, you can see because the distance is 400 miles from that point, from where Pila is now and where Renault is now. So effectively, as you say, it's like as if all of a sudden she's at the front with Renault. If she's going to do that route, it's a closer track. So very interesting. I hope it pays off. Wouldn't that be good? lets her catch up with all the rest of it. But only time will tell, and she'll explain it later. That fast stream running south from Richards Bay looks fit to wash a person clean past their destination unless they are lucky or join the stream northeast of Richards Bay. Peeler problem? Not really, because what happens is as she gets closer, as long as she's got the Starlink, she'll be able to predetermine her speed, like sailing speed, based on the weather forecast and what's happening. And as she's getting closer, you've got to make another critical decision. About 100 miles out or 150 miles out. Is my game plan working? Have I got the breeze to keep moving and cut across the narrow area of the start of the current? Because you could see it's dying at the top. It's not super strong. It's like forecasting there is saying like half a knot, three-quarters of a knot, but you have to double that just to say it might have been wrong. And so then you've just got to make sure you've got enough leeway to not get shot past Durban. So you're not going to come in directly on Durban. You're going to still come in a bit north, but you don't have to be 150 miles north. So she'll have another go no go decision to make as she gets closer to Durban. But for now, you stick to the game plan, go for it, keep a shorter distance. You've got the wind on the beam, the sea's not too bad, so why go all the way up and around the top? So it's very interesting. It'll be okay. And for safety reasons, she'll probably look at it every day. I'm in a go no go situations. It's not unsafe. She could go right up to within 50 miles of the Agulhas current, and then if it's not working right, bugger it. She can head due north, just start sailing due north, right? And then turn again and come back down, so you're not going to get sucked past it. So she's got options. She's got options, whereas I think Renault and Dan have made their decision. And if you look at it, it looks like Dan's gone too far north because you're going to have to do a left turn. And I didn't really explain that. Let me put you back on the tracker. I'll just show you something here, but it's critical because you're sailing to a mark all the time. So you're on the tracker. Now I'm going to go on the tracker. Right. So very soon, you'll see Renault flatten out and come over the top of the current. And if he's here, right, whatever happens, well, if it depends how quickly he turns, but you've got to look at the distance here. So if Renault's going to go like across to here, and then from there he's going to go down here, right? So say that's his course, boom, boom, like that. If Dan keeps going like the same as Renault in that direction, but up to there, and then goes boom, you see all of a sudden he's got the separation distance of that height, right? So he might be sleeping or doing whatever. He'll get on his thingo, and he's got to cover this because if you imagine now, if Renault turned now and went for the thingo, he's that much further behind because he's gone further north than Renault went. So Renault doesn't want to waste any north. He'll roll over the top of that and start coming down sooner or later. And Kerry's the same. They're still sailing away from the mark because there's the mark, and you've got lots of issues drawing you away from the mark with the current. But the first one to turn, all of a sudden, just in their turn, they're going to save distance to the thing. Sounds a bit crazy because they've got a long way to go yet. But how far have they got to go? We said 400 miles to here, so 500 miles, 4 or 5 days. 3, 4, 5 days or something. Now, so the 5th or the 6th are going to get there. Anyway, I digress. Hope that all makes sense. Back here, Rathlin, clean past destination, or join the stream northeast of Richards Bay. Yeah, that's it. So ideally, yes, join the stream somewhere north. But if you've got good weather, fast boat speed, you've got that reserve, you can cut across the top of the Gulf Stream without, still allowing a bit to be sucked south and go for it. But anyway, it all comes down to the weather forecast as she gets closer. Jonathan, as the wind goes south, Peeler can fall off and the current can bring her to Durban. Yep, sort of. There's a few. She's got options. Reminds me of Simon and the GGR. Sail as straight a course as possible and not far off the run line. That's exactly right. You can't afford to sail past the bloody away from the mark, And I always remember when the biggest decision you make in the GGR when you're coming down the South Atlantic is you keep going south, 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 and then you've got to do a sort of a 90-degree turn at the bottom of the South Atlantic High. And if you delay your decision a day going south, you've gone 150 miles south. If you had a turned at the top and turned left 90 degrees and go boom, you've just saved yourself a day. You've moved a day ahead of yourself. So making decisions like that are important. But this is a curve. So anyway, we're waffling on. Okay, that's enough. Time to go and do something else. Anyway, um, thank you for that. And I need a shaver. I left my shaver in the sub below. I'm starting to look like Father Christmas. Boy, it's going to get worse. Okay, so I'll put this up. Say good night. Thank you, everybody, for following, and enjoy your night. I'm happy for the fleet and it's fun to watch. See you later.